Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to a Sunday. I know this is unusual for us to do Sunday podcasts, but for some reason, some things happen. So we're going to do a live podcast that should have been done on Thursday, but that's okay. It's been a while since I've been out here, and I'm super, super excited about our guest that is going to be coming on. I actually met this young man last month when I was doing the Indiana Black Expo, promoting the Allure platform, Allure publishing platform, along with myself as an author and my other author, Salon, who was there. But I had the opportunity to meet this young man, had a wonderful, wonderful conversation with him about his recent dissertation as he received his Master's of Art, and so we were just talking, just having a lovely conversation about the publishing business. And he started talking to me about his dissertation and about the importance of having Black males in pre-K through 12th grade, which is an amazing conversation that we're going to have today. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Mr. Dominic on, and he's going to talk to you about what's his vision as a Black educator coming up into his first year of being a teacher. So, we're going to talk to him about his platform and his dissertation and the importance of us, color in education, which is so important. So, I'm going to bring him on. Well, hello, Mr. Dominic. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I can't complain. I was just telling the audience, typically we usually do these podcasts on Thursday, but maybe God had another intention for us today to spread this message early in the week, the beginning of a new week. So we're not going to ask any questions about the reasons behind it, but we're going to have a really good conversation about our conversation that we had back in June at the Indiana Black Expo. So I explained to the audience that we were just talking about the ins and outs of publishing and about what I do as a publisher as well as an author, and we kind of started talking about your dissertation. First off, congratulations on defending your dissertation. And I was truly intrigued with the title of your dissertation. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to let you talk about who you are and what this dissertation is about.
All right. Well, as Dr. Miller was stating, my name is Dominic Scott. I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. Um, shortly before Hurricane Katrina, I relocated to Scottsdale, Arizona. So often I'll say I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona, by way of New Orleans, Louisiana. But I have family all throughout Louisiana on my mother's side. And I'm a graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, HBCU, down in New Orleans, and as well as Indiana University, where I completed my master's, IU Bloomington. And I am just really excited today to discuss my work titled Perseverance, the Utilization of Black School Teachers to Combat the Dehumanization of Young Black Males in Pre-K to 12th grade schools via anti-Blackness. Um, I know I had many reasons for writing this text, right? Many reasons. Number one, as myself, a black male, I still think I'm young. Um, Going throughout schooling, as I was, not only in New Orleans but moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, where the demographic is drastically different. Right, New Orleans and Scottsdale is drastically different. I face some challenges, but also outside just my own personal reasons, I realized that there are a lot of black pupils, right, black students who are facing similar situations, facing worse situations, and how have to deal with the beast of K-12. And so my purpose, whatever I do, is to make sure everyone is seen and heard, and that everyone, especially black students, have the ability to, and the resources as well as the ability to become fully functioning human beings, to be independent, self sufficient, and to take care of themselves. And when they take care of themselves, take care of the people and utilize the gifts that they have.
Mhm.
And whenever there is, or I see there is a something, through institutional policy, you
Mhm.
know, anything that can get in the way of that, I want to make sure to be on the right side of history to address the problem methodically and hopefully, be part of the solution.
Right. Definitely. I think I think when we talk about just having the being visible, being able to be heard is something that we kind of miss out on, especially since pandemic. Since we've been in post pandemic, and I still say we're still in COVID land. It's not going anywhere. We
Right.
still need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. But I think it made it a little bit difficult too because there was no engagement. There was no face to face with anybody, especially when we're talking about education, right? um I had the opportunity to speak with somebody not too long ago about the visibility of males, as you're saying in your dissertation. There's not a lot of males, especially men of color, in education. And so it put a monkey wrench in the fact that when we went into the COVID world, that there's no engagement, there's no visibility, there's more issues that are coming out of this. So I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to actually had the chance to talk to you about your paper and about the importance of it. But let's talk a little bit about, you kind of gave a little bit about why you're doing it.
Mhm.
And I believe when we talked about you're going to be going into your first year. What do you hope to bring to those young men and women um,
Yes.
during your first year, during your walk? What do you want to see, and what do you predict is going to happen?
I want you to be seen. I want you, when I step on campus,
Hmm.
I want every student um, to feel seen,
Hmm.
and when they speak,
Hmm.
I want them to know that they are
Hmm.
heard,
Hmm.
to feel and know that you are seen and heard.
Hmm.
Um, and that's very important.
Hmm.
Um, this year is I believe, the 40th, 10, 20, 30, either the 30th or 40th, I believe 40th anniversary of a pastoral letter called What We've Seen and Heard. And it was written by the 10 Black bishops of the Catholic Church at the time. Me
Hmm.
being from New Orleans, I am, you have a lot of Black Catholics in New Orleans. And how we practice our faith is very different from Catholics anywhere else.
Hmm.
Um, and in that letter, one of the authors and the bishops was my great uncle, Joseph A. Francis, who is a bishop in New Jersey. And in the work they talk about, the gifts that we bring as Black people, the
Hmm.
gift of joy, right? And the ability, when one is seen and heard, you are it is a breeding ground, right?
Hmm.
It cultivates a a ground for one to manifest their talents and their gifts because you feel safe,
Hmm.
right? Um, that safety and that assurance builds confidence,
Hmm.
right? And so that's what I want first and foremost,
Hmm.
our young people to feel and to know when they interact with me,
Hmm.
wherever they see me, because everything from there on, if you feel seen and heard and you could trust me,
Mhm.
then everything else falls in place, right? The
Mhm.
academic success, right? Everything else falls in place. So that's a very important and significant aspect I,
Mhm.
I that needs to be stressed, especially now. You
Mhm.
just said it. We are still in the age of COVID, whether
Mhm.
we like to admit it or not, right? It's still going around.
Yes,
It's not going anywhere. And
yep,
so that genie's not going to get put back in that bottle.
that's true.
And so we've dealt with isolation,
Mhm.
right? Depression rates have gone up, and you're dealing with a lot of individuals who, are facing a lot of instabilities and uncertainties. So
Mhm.
COVID and 2020 and from now, a lot of things have, exacerbated and just agitated many, compounded many difficult situations.
Mhm.
And being an educator is a calling.
Mhm.
Being an educator is more than just regurgitating instruction. Being educated, that's what teachers do that. And
Mhm.
we could go into the difference between being an educator and a teacher because they're two drastically different
Oh,
things.
definitely. I agree. I totally agree because I am an educator, right? And
Right.
I understand that piece of it because I teach undergrad, so I too totally understand the difference. So, if you want, go ahead and explain it to the audience because some people might not know the difference.
Absolutely. Well, a teacher is able to give you an assignment, give you a directive, and to make sure you achieve a specific assignment that is on a paper, that is on a computer, and emphasize that and that information only. But
Mhm.
what makes one an educator is, can you connect, are you able to connect what you're teaching to the lessons of life, to the
Yeah.
reality and experiences of life?
Mhm.
And how can I make this information, right, this topic, right, this particular unit of study,
Mhm.
how can we transfer this into your lived reality and experiences?
Exactly.
Because when you
Totally
do
different.
that, okay, thanks for relating this to me. I
Mhm.
had no idea you can make ratios and absolute values, and you could relate to my experiences. Yes, you can.
Mhm.
But number one, you got to believe that you can, and then
Mhm.
you got to be willing to find the connections and be willing to, you know, ask the questions of how does this connect with
Mhm.
others in your community, because it is a communal effort.
I agree totally. I always equate that to the branches of trees of a tree, right? You have to be able to have those branches to branch out because life is going to be life. You have
Yeah.
to make it, especially with young folks, you have to make it something that it first off that's interesting, that's
Right.
going to keep their attention and that is relatable. So I agree that as an educator, you have to bridge all of those things. And not only are you an educator, you're probably a father figure to them, a mother figure to them.
Yes.
You're a lot of things under that umbrella, and
Yeah.
so being able to have that being a roundness about all of that and being able to connect is so important. Again, because we're still living in the life of COVID, we have to make sure that we are putting out things that will be conducive to their experience because everybody's experience is different. Everybody has a different journey that they're walking, but being able to connect and see the difference in each one of those children makes a difference. It makes learning so much more interesting and it allows them to, as you say, see themselves when nobody else is able to see them.
Yes.
So we're going to dive into it. I was able, we talked a little bit. I was able to look at a couple of the chapters in your book
Hmm.
and I was explaining to you how I was just so intrigued with the titles of them. And one of those ones was the power that is already inside of you, of you, the Black radical identified and its benefits to young males. So
Yes.
explain that because that's a lot packed into a sentence, into a
Yes.
title.
Yeah. So that's the fourth chapter. the power that is already inside of you, Black racial identity and its benefits for young Black males.
Mm-hmm.
That chapter, I really started working on that chapter in high school.
Wow.
Obviously, not from the technical point of view,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm. Of course.
engaging in literature that is able to connect the eras of not only Black racial identity and how it affirms and reaffirms Black life, but
Mm-hmm.
how it benefits the community, the individuals within in the community, and how that impacts agency and dynamic. So,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? Throughout my study and just my own life and what I see with others' lives, when one is able to identify with who they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Through song, literature, um, through other individuals, through the through a visual archive, you feel seen. It affirms who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this brings a form of of affirming yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that when you identify with who you are, your Blackness, right, your Black identity, you know, you feel better about yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you feel seen. And you learn, if you dig deep enough, you learn that our history didn't start on the boats, y'all. Please, please, let's be
Mm-hmm.
very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Very clear. Because it pains me. It pains me when I ask children, what do you know about yourself? And they only go back to say, well, we were slaves. Pause. This is a result of white supremacy. This is a result of an institutional effort to suppress information, right, about your lived experiences before the boat ride. We ain't
Mm-hmm.
talking about Hannah Nicole Jones, 1619. Okay, we need to know that. But also, we need to know about Amenhotep III, right? We need to know about the scholars who have put in the work to bring the history of the Africans in Kemet, or as the Greeks renamed Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need to know Dr. Amison Wilson, a Black developmental psychologist who he got his uh, went to Morehouse, has a text called The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Asa G. Hilliard, another Black psychologist. Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. Right? These are scholars who have dedicated their lives to uncovering the efforts of African people prior to colonial interference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Case in point, when you find out, and this is in Stanley Lane Poole's book, Moors in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Africans were in Spain, they taught the European how to take a common bath. This is not me saying this. This is Stanley Lane Poole saying this. This is Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen saying this. And I'm saying this to you all because I've listened and I examined the elders.
Mm-hmm.
When you know that we we more than the pyramids, and when we think of the pyramids, we think of Egypt, but there are more pyramids and older pyramids in the Sudan, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't always slaves. The original father of medicine and the creator of the step pyramid is Amenhotep, right? But who is there to relay that knowledge to the children?
Exactly.
This is the importance of the educator. How to
Mm-hmm.
connect, how to connect history so you could apply it in your lived experience now. And so in
Mm-hmm.
chapter 4, you know, the power that is already inside of you, I go into not only, the empirical evidence, yes, of how, identifying with Black identity, you have higher rates of self-esteem, but also it helps you, and even can help you chronically, with your health.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I also take time, and even in the literature review, to lay
Mm-hmm.
out scholars such as Kobe K.K. Kanban, formerly known as J.A. Baldwin, um, who is a psychologist at FAMU, Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how he, really dedicated his life's work to unveiling the history of African people. For example, hot topic with a lot of us, the Bible. Okay, you
Mm-hmm.
look at the Ten Commandments, or have you looked at the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and we have these things called the negative confessions, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
like 40, 42 of them, and you can see that the Ten Commandments is extracted from that, and it's not, and this isn't a this or that, this is right,
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. It's about connecting it,
Mm-hmm. Understanding the history.
understand the history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of I realize a lot of Black youth don't know that, and we are fed like wolves. We are sheep, and the beast of the policies that are set up in education,
Mm-hmm.
and the individuals who back and reinforce these policies.
Mm-hmm.
Our young people don't even have a chance in
Mm-hmm.
so many spaces because there's no one advocating for them, and
Right.
of course there's no one who even knows this information, unless you have to stumble upon it by happenstance,
Mm-hmm.
and unless you're fortunate enough to have an elder or someone who knows, okay, come
Mm-hmm.
here, come to here, come go to Black Classic Press, right? Go to
Mm-hmm.
Third World Press, go to African World Press, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's some Black owned bookstores you need to go and invest in
Exactly. Exactly.
to get this knowledge.
And that's the thing about it. I think with so many policies and things that are restricting educators to be able to really give the history, we've been stopped. And it's always you're radical, you're doing this and you're doing that. But I think if we are strong enough and have the tenacity to want to provide that to our children, then
Right.
it makes them a better rounded individual because
Exactly.
they stand up tall. They have a different look about themselves. They are pressed. They're ready. They are ready to do what they need to do. But if it's not out there for them to know it, then how do we get it to them? You know what I'm saying? So it's important, as we talk about it today, the importance of these different scholars, the different places where that they can get that information is important. One of my colleagues just went to Louisiana, and there is a Black owned bookstore in Louisiana, and I can't think of the name right off bat, but I think we're supposed to be going next year with the publishing company. And I was so intrigued with the fact that it was owned by a Black person, and
Mhm.
everything in there was Black driven, which we need that because, again, that allows for our children and everybody else to be able to go in and read our stories, right?
Mhm.
And so it's important that we continue to advocate that, not just for our children, but also educate other people that are not of us so they'll understand what our history is. And as you said, we just didn't just were slaves, we had
Right.
lives before then.
Right. And so there's a theoretical framework on this note called African self-consciousness,
Hmm.
developed by the Kobe Kanban, the gentleman that I just previously mentioned. And
Hmm.
he has a study in one of his texts that I mentioned in my work, and the result is, when you reaffirm and affirm your life through images, through text, um,
Hmm.
through the written archive, through the visual archive art, you know he empirically shows that your self-esteem, you have better rates of feeling you your self-esteem improves,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
especially for young Black males.
Hmm.
And so, I just want to throw that in there
Mhm.
because we talk about theories and theoretical frameworks, but he has empirical data in that, and I'm
Mm.
very big on empirical data and information.
Of course, definitely. You want to make sure you can be able to trace it back and
Yeah,
make sure that it is.
you have to,
Yeah,
absolutely,
exactly.
absolutely.
And I've heard you say the word affirmation several times in your conversation, and I think we talked about it when we were at the Indiana Black Expo. I did do a book about affirming who you are. It's important that we continue to do that because when we affirm who we are, we love ourselves much more harder. We go out and, as we say, have any problem with running into the paint and doing what we have to do. But I think affirming oneself is so important. I think, again, with the pandemic hitting so hard, that we have lost that connection and we have lost who we are. So being able to
Mhm,
reaffirm who we are is so, so, so important. And one of my sisters, her name is Pamela Coleman.
mhm,
She did an amazing book with Black males about mental health. And one of your pieces, it talks about the psychological benefits.
mhm,
And so allowing men of color to be able to take pen to paper and talk about their journeys in mental health. We, as a Black culture, that thing that says what happens in the household stays in the household, we need to take that and blow that saying up, because what's happening in the household is staying in the household and it's causing havoc. We're not getting the help that they need. So when we're talking about young Black males, especially starting pre-K to 12, we need to get a hold of them now and understand, to let them know it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be able to cry, because that myth that men don't cry is a it's craziness to me. So talk a little
mhm.
bit about that piece that you had in your book.
The psychological benefits.
Yes.
Um, yes. So I found across several studies that, like I said briefly previously, when you are able to identify with the history
Mhm.
of your people, you then are armed with the knowledge. There's a saying, and I know, you've probably heard it a million times. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
So, for example, tying this into 2024, we see that school to prison pipeline, right, by way of expulsions, suspensions,
Mhm.
school resource officers, and all those three are have a lot of policies on the
Mhm.
books that are designed to remove Black pupils,
Mhm.
right? Black girls, Black boys. When you look at school to prison pipeline, and the majority of individuals in the prison industrial complex is disproportionately Black men.
Mhm.
And when you look, and like Du Bois said, W.B. Du Bois, you know, education, maybe paraphrasing, is a lever to uplift the people. Well, education is a powerful thing.
Of course.
When you're aware of your situation, and you're aware, and you're suited with the information, and you know the words, and to help you go find resources and people
Mhm.
to better it,
Mhm.
that's a form of power.
Of course.
And when you have individuals teaching you who may not, um,
You can say it. It's all good. But this is
when you have individuals teaching you who don't understand you culturally,
yes.
who don't understand, quite frankly, the reality of Black people,
Mhm.
and others who just aren't like them, because for whatever reason, you may be isolated in your own bubble, in your own world, and you meet
Mhm.
somebody else. Well, that's not normal. Just because it's not what you know, you
Mhm.
see it as wrong.
Exactly.
And we operate in right and wrong too many times. Then you have a case where, okay, well, you can't do this way. That's not appropriate. Leave. And then when you dismiss a child from the classroom, the learning environment, you know, that's a sure way to damage their future, their ability to develop to be a fully functioning human being, to
Mhm.
provide for themselves. And if they want to have family, have a family,
Exactly.
right? And so psychologically, identifying with your blackness, I not only it's not just about the empirical. I'm heavy on that. You also at the same time, it's about going to the archive,
Mhm.
right? Kind of like the Endinkra symbol, like the Sankofa bird.
Mhm.
Go back and fetch. It is not taboo to go back and fetch
Mhm.
what's your history, what
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
yours.
Yeah.
Um, we have to read Du Bois. We have to be scholars and students, lifetime students of W.B. Du Bois, Ida Burnett Wells, right?
Mhm.
Carter Godwin Woodson,
Mhm.
uh, um, William Leo Hansberry, the blood related uncle of Lorraine Hansberry.
Hansberry. Yes.
Because nothing is new and time is not linear,
Mm.
it's not circular.
Yes.
And so when you can make those intergenerational, cross generational connections,
Mhm.
you're able to identify the reality that you're in and to be very observant and to identify threats.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Because, quite frankly, this is war.
Yeah. We're losing more and more of our black males, and now it's creeping up with our females as well too. We're
Absolutely.
losing so many of us for senseless things, right? And so I think the groundwork needs to be had should have been done a long time ago. I always tell people, if I had the opportunity to be able to sit on the porch of my grandmother's house
Mm,
at 610 McKinley in Hollandale, Mississippi,
mm.
being able to pull all that knowledge from her. That's where we're losing. We have so many young folks that think that I don't want to listen to that old person. They don't know anything, but they do. They bring so much richness to our culture that we're missing out on.
Mm.
And so I think when you say we need to go back and pull, we need to pull harder than ever.
Yes.
We're on this election year.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to talk politics today,
Oh,
but
no, no,
I'm
absolutely.
not going to talk politics today. But if we don't start looking at the writings on the wall that has been there for a long, long, long time, right? We're going to fall into a hole so deep that we're not going to be able to pull ourselves out. So, I think with this conversation about education and making sure that our young people, our young males, have a representation of someone else that looks like them
Mhm,
and not perpetrating like somebody else,
mhm.
then it makes it so much easier for us to see the end results, if that makes sense.
It
You know,
does.
yeah.
You
So,
just made a conceit. See, ancestors don't lie, y'all. This
yeah.
is important. You mentioned Mississippi.
Yes.
Um, my dad's father, my grandfather, he has people in the Yazoo City, Mississippi.
Oh, right
Why is
down the road.
Mississippi important? Yazoo City.
Yes.
Now, Mississippi is a very important place.
Yes.
There are mounds in Mississippi, like there are the Cahokia Mounds in Illinois.
Yes.
Dr. Miller, did you know that these mounds were once pyramids
Oh,
by
yes.
Africans?
There's a if I can't remember where we were going, and they have it set where you can't touch it. I can't remember what. I have to go back and ask my mom. But yes, I saw them for myself.
Yes.
Saw them for myself. Yes. Hmm.
The ability, because see, people driving by who don't man, oh, that's just a mound, it's a hill. No, that's sacred.
That's sacred.
That was touched before Columbus,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Before any of that, because we've
Yes.
been here.
We've been here.
Okia Mounds of Illinois, the mounds of Mississippi. Let's
Yes.
talk. Let's tie this. Let's tie this into music terms.
Hmm.
Robert Johnson.
Hmm.
Robert Johnson, blues
Hmm.
man
Yeah.
out of Mississippi. I got hellhounds on my trail,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Hellhounds. Robert Johnson. Now this is it's imperative we change the narrative because
Yeah.
you see it was on Netflix. It's about Robert Johnson, and they were saying how one day he went away and he just all of a sudden he learned how to play the guitar. Someone said he went down to the crossroads and he made a deal with the devil.
Hmm. Hmm.
Pause, 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 pause.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anybody who believes that foolishness, he made to the crossroads. He made a deal with the crossroads is a sacred place, number one, beloved.
Hmm.
Number two, he made a deal. No, he mysteriously disappeared. He was in Mississippi, early 1900s. Something more than likely happened to this brother.
Exactly. Exactly.
Probably murdered.
Hmm. Hmm.
When he said hellhounds on my trail, he's talking about the realities of lynchings.
Of course.
He's talking about the realities that are 2024 and 2020 and a Tatiana Jefferson who went to my school, Xavier, police kicking in the door, waving the 4-4,
Mm.
Ahmaud Arbery,
Yes.
Philando Castile.
Hmm.
It's no different. He's talking about different time period,
But it's still happening.
same thing.
Hmm.
Now, Mississippi, Robert Johnson, Cahokia Mounds of Mississippi. What does this have to do with Black educators? It has everything to do with it because we just made the connections that they were the mounds of Mississippi, Cahokia, are fundamentally African. They were uh, pyramids,
Hmm.
but also who's more likely to give this information to Black pupils, Black teachers? And this is where we need to sit.
Hmm.
What's the solution? What's the problem? Yeah, that is a solution. It is empirically proven Black students who have Black teachers are not only more likely to not drop out of high school,
Hmm.
they're more likely to go to college,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Feel better about themselves, have better lives. And on top of that, disciplinary disciplinary infractions
Hmm.
far more are far less
Yep. Yep. I
than
agree.
professors of other demographics.
Hmm.
There was even in I mentioned the castration of young Black males in schools.
Yes.
There
Hmm.
was a Yale childhood study where I believe it was kindergarten, pre-K or kindergarten,
Hmm.
and the researchers used eye tracking technology, and the teachers gazed longer at the Black student. They gazed at the Black
Hmm.
student,
Hmm.
and the look in the gaze is a different thing.
Hmm.
And they saw Black students' activities are just playing around seem to be problematic,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? This is the importance of having these platforms, of your platforms, Dr.
Hmm.
Miller, and having educational platforms such as the Center for Black Educator Development,
Hmm.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ran by Sharif El Mekki, Profound Gentleman,
Hmm.
an organization designed to recruit and retain Black males and also men of color.
Mm-hmm.
um, black male educators and other male educators of color out of, I believe, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Black Men Teach out of Twin Cities and Minneapolis,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Mm,
It's a very important thing and it's needed.
I agree.
Um, and so you have a black teacher, you're more likely to get that knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of that same lived experience. That
Yeah.
same, I went through that. Okay, I'm gonna make sure you don't get a taste of whatever I went through as long as you with me. What
Mm-hmm.
happens out there in the world is gonna happen. When you with me, oh no, we're gonna
Yeah.
take measures. And you know what? We're gonna do this the right way.
Of course.
And so I just when you said Mississippi though, I just had to kind of go around in that because that's a very to me is very significant and powerful. Um,
Yeah, and it's that direct link because, of course, my mom left Mississippi, and where did she go?
hmm,
Straight north to where? Illinois. Where? Chicago.
mm,
Where most people went to, you know.
right.
But I think, again, just learning the history,
Yeah.
being able to submerge ourselves in the history and being able to give it back. Because I think, again, once you know the history,
Mm,
you are more willing to understand that journey. And
mm,
how do I keep moving, keep motivating myself to move to the next level, understanding that I didn't start on the boat. I have life after this. What do I do to continue to motivate myself to get through pre-K to elementary to high school to college? Because 9 times out of 10, we look at the statistics. There's a lot of young men and women don't have a full two parents in the household. You
oh,
know what I'm saying? So, but does that negate them to have the ability to still want to dream big? Of course not.
of
Of
course not.
course not. We want them to be able to see themselves beyond their circumstances.
Mhm.
I tell people, your home is your home, and because of where you lived at, that doesn't make you
Right.
have to have the mindset to say that I'm going to do better. And I'm so equally grateful to have had this conversation with you, because as a young man of color, hearing the push that you have, the drive that you have to want to make a difference in these young kids' lives is so important, because a lot of times they get left to the wayside. And because
Absolutely.
people don't understand their journey, don't understand who they are, don't understand their makeup. All you see is that they're black or they're brown and they don't look like you, and they automatically say those people are doomed to be X, Y, and Z because they came from a broken household, all this other
Mm,
craziness. But
right.
if we have people who are willing to go to bat for these young people, it makes it so much easier to digest, because they know they have somebody in their corner rooting for them from day one. So kudos to you, um making a stance and making it known that this is your platform, this is your mission, this is what you want to see going forward for our people. And it's okay to say our people,
Yeah.
because we want our people to do better. And in order to do better, they have to know how to
Yes.
do better.
You can
So,
never be ashamed when you can and like you said, Dr. Miller, we can't be ashamed to say I am unapologetically supporting black people because when you look at those suspension papers, when you look at the criminal treatment from other students
mhm,
to administration, some administrations,
of course.
you know, it is just the um, metaphorical and literal incarceration of black bodies.
Yes.
And so, when somebody says, why you emphasize black? Why can't no? Well, look at who is getting kicked out of school. then I'll stop.
Mhm.
Till then, thank you. Have a nice day.
Ex
So, um, because no, this is so when I was teaching, doing my summer teaching, and it recently ended this week.
Mhm,
Summer teaching, and then I started first in the fall.
mhm,
I was teaching a math class, and before we get into the lesson, whether we're talking about absolute values, reciprocals, ratios, whatever,
mhm,
percentages, I do a little brief little history lesson. And we
mhm,
talked about, you mentioned your mom went to Illinois,
mhm.
Mississippi to Illinois.
Uh-huh.
I gave a brief lesson on the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, Freddie
Mm,
Hampton, and the coalition politics.
mm,
And a mentor of mine who was actually on my committee, Dr. Jacoby Williams,
okay.
outside Chicago. Um, he has a text called "From the Bullet to the Ballot," and the full name, which I may be butchering it, "From the Bullet to the Ballot," and it's like Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and coalition politics. But the
Mhm,
text is "From the Bullet to the Ballot." And
mhm,
Dr. Williams is a professor at Indiana University in the African American and African Diaspora Studies Department. Really laid the
mm,
groundwork for um, what I kind of went into, and I
mhm,
discussed, who's heard of the Rainbow Coalition, like what it
mm,
means, right? And so we talked about Fred Hampton.
mhm.
We talked about the Panthers. We talked about the other organizations through the
Mhm,
racial coalition politics, the Young Patriots
mhm,
organization by
mhm,
the young whites in the Appalachians, and the Young Lords organization with
mhm,
the Hispanics, and how
mhm.
the Panthers, the Young Lords organization, the Young Patriots, all formed together to help elect the first black mayor of Chicago, Harold Washington.
Harold Washington. Yes.
And furthermore, how the Panthers, which is majority, most of the chapters ran by black women. There's the image, the when you think of the Panthers, it's always pushed to Oakland, right? Huey
Mhm,
Pierce Newton from Louisiana. Um,
mhm. Shout
uh,
out, right?
shout out,
Yeah.
Huey, rest in peace, always.
Mhm,
Um, you get this image of Oakland, the brothers in the leather jackets,
mhm,
berets.
mhm,
It was most of the women who were, feeding the young people with the free breakfast and the free lunches, and
mhm.
doing even the free healthcare clinics with the lead
Yes.
testing and the blood pressure testing,
Mhm.
and how the federal government um, took the Panthers um, blueprint of the free breakfast program and implemented it in schools across the country to get
Yes.
students free meals.
Mhm,
So we talked about all that.
mhm,
And like how many I knew, and a lot of them didn't know.
mhm.
And we have teachers who think, oh, well, this is math, this isn't history, or even if it's history, why do they need to know this? Right?
Right.
This is what we're talking about earlier. What you said, between teaching and education.
Mhm,
Education is only as good as it is relatable, as the content is relatable to your demographic that you are teaching.
mhm.
The
Exactly.
education I'm going to give, I could give a unified, curriculum to black students, other students say, caramel and whatnot. But there's certain
Mhm.
things I'm going to give specifically black students, and that is okay.
It is okay.
That is
It is.
okay
Mhm,
because you know I mentioned my work. Where with the Little Rock Nine, where did they pull them students from? Was it
mm.
was it what kind of schools?
It
What
would
kind of
look, look, it wasn't from affluent, Caucasian
No, it
collegiate
wasn't.
schools,
It
right?
wasn't. It was
It
black
was from there.
schools
There
of
you
black
go.
teachers.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
And um I know we're getting close to the end, but
No, I mean, we can
Oh,
continue to talk. I mean, and
okay,
we can
great.
always we can talk, but we can, it's always part two because I can guarantee
Always.
you there's always a platform for us to talk about the importance of education. I always told my children, I still tell them to this day, once you have been educated and know, nobody can take that away from you. All
No,
you have to do now is build on it.
build.
So while you there, I tell my kids all the time, your stuff is free.
Right.
It's free. So
Yes.
take advantage of it as you have it and build on it as you go. You, as you said, you are lifelong learners. I love to learn. I feel like if I don't learn, so I'm stagnant.
Mm.
So being able to have this platform to be able to push that type of information out to whoever can get it is what I'm supposed to do. I told you when we were spoke last month, the platform that I'm on through Allure Publishing is not for me. It's
Mm.
for everybody else. This
Right.
platform for creative conversations with Dr. C, it's not about me. It's about other people
Hmm.
spreading the message, giving it to people so they can see it raw and uncut. Because if we sugarcoat it and water it down, it's not authentic.
Right.
So this platform is just for that, to have conversations that probably most people probably might not want to even have. But that's okay. It's okay. But we're going to have it because we need to have it. We need to open the doors and open the eyes of people who are blinded
Yes.
to the things that are happening in this world. I don't know where they're at. Maybe they're under a rock. I don't know. But at least we're putting it out there and people are able to get that message. And so we can talk and we can also reconvene and we
We,
can
we
talk.
got we got to have a part two because
Oh, definitely, definitely.
once I get my books are still in my boxes. Uh,
Hmm.
once we get these bookshelves that we could let's definitely do a deep dive.
Oh, definitely. I definitely would love to do that because I think we have just get just the top crest of what we need to talk
Oh, yeah.
about this dissertation. About we talked about you wanting to potentially turn this into much more than just a dissertation, a book for young males and females to
Yeah.
read. And you got the history there, you got
Right.
all of that compiled in one book, which will be awesome for people to read. I have one of my best friends, her name is Aloja Hadley.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote a book, is a book that is called Who Am I? Who am I? Talks about the history from way back. I mean, I literally was just in awe of all the stuff that she was able to put into this book. And you remind me of her and the talks that you're having with your students. And
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I said that book needs to be in schools.
Yeah.
It needs to be in school. People need to know the history, not the things that they cherry pick to give to us
Mm-hmm.
as history, which is really not history. It's
Yeah.
their history.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for putting Martin Luther King. Thank you for, but
Yeah.
we need to have a little bit more than that, right? And
Right.
so having the opportunity to have these conversations with yourself is so important because we need to, again, educate ourselves.
Right.
Educate ourselves because education is going to be the vehicle that we need to push forward.
And they say King. I'm like, no, let's dance. Okay, let's talk about King. Let's talk about King. Let's talk about when King was assassinated. He had that. He had his speech. Why America may go to hell. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that.
Mhm. Yes.
Let's talk about the king that said why he felt like he led his people into a burning house. Let's talk about that
Mhm. Mhm.
because you got to connect King with Du Bois. You got to
Mhm.
connect King and Malcolm with Du Bois because they're both Du Boisian. One's
Yeah.
non-violent.
Yep.
Actually, the other one was more not even Malcolm wasn't even violent. And I don't like when people say one's this, one's that. They're both Du Boisian.
Right.
Really, they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, they cherry pick. cherry pick. But no, no, let's go to this tree. Let's go to this where you got the cherry. So let's study the whole thing.
Let's study the whole tree
Let's go the whole tree.
because it's roots under that tree, right? That's the
It's
only way
roots
it's
under
gonna
this
grow, right?
roots under that tree, and we must bear witness, like James Baldwin said in his 100th year. And this year would be his celebration of his 100th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Baldwin, 100 years, 2024. He was born
Mm-hmm.
in 1924.
I
We
have to
must
give
bear
shout.
witness, like
Yeah,
Baldwin said.
I agree. I have to shout out my grandmother. My grandmother would have yesterday would have been her 100th birthday as well too.
All
So
right.
shout out to Ruby J. Mills,
Yes.
the matriarch of the Johnson family. Without
Yes.
her, we wouldn't have made it. Okay.
Yes.
So we have to pay homage to those people that came before us. And I tell you, Dominic, this conversation is just getting started.
It
So
is.
I'm gonna let you close out. Tell the people what your what's coming soon. I know we talked about you starting the fall teaching. Tell them what are you doing in the fall?
So in the fall, I'll be teaching first grade.
Wow.
I'll be teaching first grade. I'll be at Liberty Grove Schools at Elder Watson Diggs 42 campus. Um, Elder Watson Diggs, um, one of the 10 founders of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I am a Kappa, yes.
yes.
And it's very interesting. I wasn't supposed to be at Diggs, but I guess somebody had other plans. Who that is, I don't know. Uh, but I'll be teaching first grade,
Mhm.
first year educator, like you said, Dr. Miller.
Congratulations.
And I'll be just continuing on this work of, how do we get the resources for the students, the parents, the grandmothers, the caretakers of our black pupils, of our black students, right?
Mhm.
How do
Mhm.
we get the information? How do we get the resources
Yeah.
available? When
Yeah.
you know better, you do better.
Definitely, definitely.
And once you know, you can't come back from not knowing. I didn't know. No, no.
Well,
It's
yeah, you do. You do.
now you know.
Yeah,
So act like
exactly.
you know.
Well, I'm super
I have
excited for
some good
you.
plans for the fall. Thank you. And
I'm
thank,
super,
thank
I know
you.
when we talked, you didn't know. You're like, I don't know. I was like, now we know. Wow, that is
Yeah,
amazing. You are at that level where they don't know. They're coming into first grade, coming out of pre-K, kindergarten. So you are going to be that person that they're going to lean on the most because you're really giving their formal years, their first year of true school. We say kindergarten, yeah, they're formative, the color and all, but this is their first year. So your impact on them is going to be great. And I have no doubt you're going to be amazing your first year. Amazing.
thank you.
Oh, you most welcome. You most welcome. So it sounds like we got a part two, Dominic. What you
Yeah,
think? All
absolutely.
right. Sound like a part two to me too. We will reconvene this conversation. Don't know when we will be able to do that, but sounds like live is what we should be doing. I think we get the opportunity to get people's questions and be able to answer them and bring people on. So I think this has been a win-win situation. Again, I am truly, truly grateful to have you on the platform, and we will
Thank
talk
you. Thank
again.
you.
We will definitely talk again, definitely before. When does school start for you guys?
So for the teachers, July 25th.
That's around
Teachers.
the corner.
It is. It's around the corner. It's 11 days away. Wow.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, 11 days away. So this is what we're going to, maybe we'll plan it. We'll come back after your first, maybe first 2 weeks of school.
okay.
Have some talks about what your first couple weeks of school has been like and your impact on those young ones, because I know, like I said, you're going to have a great impact on them. But maybe we'll come back in a couple weeks, so maybe the first week of August sometime.
Okay.
we'll talk again. But we will definitely talk about a little bit more about your book, because I think more people need to understand that dissertation and about the work that you put into it. But one question I did have for you: did you get the opportunity to sit down with anybody to give you insight on your paper? I mean, physically sit down. I mean, we know we can pull the data, but did you actually physically sit down with anybody that was able to give you concrete information to put into your dissertation?
Yes. Uh, yes. I sat down with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people are responsible for this. It's
Mm-hmm.
not this work has my name on it, but like with anything, it's a collective effort.
Right.
Um, I start with my mother. She's a historian of the family. She does genealogy,
Wow.
and she's been, I believe, doing it around the time I was born and before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just regarding emphasizing the importance of the archive, the narration of archival documents, or the narration of a particular event.
Mm-hmm.
I give credit to my mother in that, and just observing and being around her and the work
Mm-hmm.
that she does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my father, definitely my father, because this work it can be very exhausting,
Mm-hmm.
and my father gives timeless advice
Mm.
um, about just having to pace yourself and doing the best that you can, and just you're taking things day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, regarding in addition to that, Father Joseph Brown, um, he is a professor of Africana Studies at SIU Carbondale.
Okay, Illinois.
Met
Okay.
Father Brown in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
2017, 2018,
Mm-hmm.
at a Black Catholic lay conference called the Light Conference,
Mm-hmm.
P Light Conference, and it was happening on the campus of Xavier University, of Louisiana. Xavier is the only Black and Catholic institution in the Western Hemisphere,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I talked to him and told him about my what I really wanted to do with life, and kind of college, you kind of finding what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, a lot of people don't know. You may say but
Mm-hmm.
you gotta really just step out on the limb. Okay, what really inspires me? So, and
Mm-hmm.
he is just phenomenal. I mean, Robert Ferris Thompson, Flash of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he recommended, I mean, just countless texts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I went to the Black-owned bookstore, and I believe it's the community bookstore in New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
um, and scholars like Dr. Joseph and Yakinen,
Mm-hmm.
Chancellor Williams,
Mm-hmm.
Remember Ani, Du Bois, he definitely is a memory keeper, and he helped me a lot throughout this process. And I
Mm-hmm.
talked to him physically throughout the years, and a lot of the information in this text
Mm-hmm.
is inspired not only by my experiences, right, but also sitting with him and with elders, you
Mm-hmm.
know, getting insight of what needs to be unveiled again,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we don't repeat the things that we don't have to repeat.
Of course, definitely.
Uh, somebody else is Dr. Maria Hamilton Abigunde,
Mm-hmm.
who is another professor who's on my committee,
Mm-hmm.
and she is just amazing. She text in her class. We read Humane Insight by Courtney Baker, I believe, which is
Mm-hmm.
in my work. Um, Silencing the Past
Mm-hmm.
by Michelle Roth Trujillo, which is
Mm-hmm.
about the power and the production of history and the narration of history.
Mm-hmm.
A Haitian historian, or was his ancestor now,
Mm-hmm.
definitely helped me more than words could say.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people responsible for this work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Miss Lisa McLean down in campus ministry in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was, with campus ministry, and you know, a lot of the ways I approach the problems and approach, the solutions or solutions I hope to come to fruition in the
Mm-hmm.
world. Um, her as well, because she's with students a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so she interacts with students, right? So when you talk about being seen and heard, feeling seen and heard, she deals with a lot of crisis, and she's able to really break the barrier and make sure some students may not have to walk on eggshells. And she
Mm-hmm.
is somebody. She's the mother in the community, not only at Xavier but in many other places in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So individuals are seen and heard to get to the root of an issue, a problem, or just to talk. It
Safe
doesn't have to
space.
be. It doesn't. Yeah, safe space.
A safe space. And
Oh,
that's what we need. We need safe spaces to talk
yes,
about a lot of things, especially as we mentioned before, mental health, having safe spaces for them to be able to come and feel like they're not being judged. So safe spaces is very important, very much so. I agree with that. Totally.
absolutely. So those are just a
Mm-hmm.
few
Mm-hmm.
individuals who are alive that help
Mm-hmm.
me, because there's people who I've prayed to and talked to who may not be here, who've led me and guided me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, some of y'all may not know what that means. Some of y'all be like,
Well, some people don't, but I do.
You're not
Like,
alive.
what are you talking about? No,
No, no,
don't
no.
even worry about it. It's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
we can
We
say that.
know. We
We can
we
say
know.
that for part two, y'all.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
a part two. There's definitely a part two. So we'll definitely have a part two. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Well, I don't know, what is it. This is probably in the next three weeks or so, 3 4 weeks. We'll reconvene. We'll see how your first couple of weeks have gone as a educator of first graders. Again, I see nothing but greatness in you. I think things happen for a reason. I think you being able to come and talk to me at the Indiana Black Expo was a reason. And so many more conversations to come. I know that this was not our last one. Definitely not the one that's coming up. I feel that there's much more conversation that needs to be heard um, and talked about. So, with that being said, this is a brand new week. As I've always told you guys, this is a brand new week. Continue to stand in your purpose. Continue to do what you're supposed to do. Continue to touch those people that you need to touch. This is not the last conversation that you're going to hear from me. Many more to come. I might be in hiatus here and there, but there's going to be many more conversations to come. So continue to enjoy life. Continue to enjoy today as if it was your last, and continue just to be just good people, good stewardess over the gifts that God has given you. So, with that being said, we're going to say good evening, good night. I don't even know what time it is, but whatever it is, wherever you at, you all have a blessed and prosperous and powerful week. See you then.
right.
All right.